Burkina Faso, one of the world's poorest nations, has always struggled with its infrastructure. Roads were often broken, washed away by heavy rains, or cracked open under the burning African sun. Villages and towns were cut off, ambulances and fire trucks would get stuck for hours, and farmers found it nearly impossible to transport their crops to the markets. For years, the people lived with this painful reality, until a young leader, Ibrahim Traoré, decided to change the course of history. Instead of relying on expensive foreign loans and imported materials, Traoré came up with an idea so unusual that, at first, it sounded almost unbelievable. He asked, "Why not build roads using the one material we have in abundance, old tires?" Every year, millions of worn-out tires end up as waste, burned to release toxic smoke, or dumped into rivers and streams, creating pollution. But Traoré saw opportunity where others saw garbage. Under his leadership, engineers and workers began collecting these discarded tires. The tires were laid out in carefully arranged patterns, then covered with a special cement mixture that bonded tightly with the rubber. The result? Roads that were not only cheaper but also stronger and more durable than traditional asphalt roads. Experts were stunned. The cost of these roads turned out to be 40% less than normal construction, and the flexibility of rubber allowed them to absorb shocks from rain, floods, and even earthquakes better than conventional roads. Suddenly, isolated villages were connected to cities. Journeys that once took 5 hours could now be completed in just 1 hour. But the impact wasn't just in transportation. Thousands of young people were employed in the process, collecting, cleaning, arranging, and constructing these eco-friendly roads. A country plagued by unemployment was now witnessing hope in action. This innovative project also struck a major blow against dependency on imports. Normally, expensive materials like bitumen and asphalt had to be brought from abroad, draining precious foreign reserves. But with old tires, a local and practically free resource, Burkina Faso cut down on costs dramatically. Soon, delegations from other African nations, Mali, Niger, Chad, came to study this new model of road building. Environmental organizations in Europe labeled it the eco-road model, praising it as a technology that could change the world. For Traoré, however, it wasn't just about roads. It was about proving a point. True independence means trusting your own people and your own resources. This was only the beginning. In Burkina Faso, farming is life. But for decades, it was a life of struggle. The rains were unpredictable, often too little, and crops failed year after year. Farmers planted seeds, but without water, the land remained barren. Families went hungry, and the nation relied heavily on imported food. Ibrahim Traoré understood this pain because he himself came from the soil. He knew that if farmers thrived, the nation would thrive. That's why he launched one of his boldest projects, artificial irrigation canals. These were not ordinary canals. They were designed to collect and store rainwater during the wet season and channel it year-round to farmlands that had always been dry. Suddenly, villages that once prayed desperately for rain now had water flowing through man-made rivers. For the first time, farmers no longer looked to the sky in despair. They had control. They could grow wheat, rice, maize, vegetables, and fruits without waiting for unpredictable weather. The impact was immediate. Food shortages began to shrink. Farmers who once lived in poverty started producing more than enough for their families, and in some cases, even for export. A dream that once seemed impossible was now alive: food security and self-sufficiency. But Traoré's vision went further. The construction of canals created jobs for thousands of local workers. Engineers, diggers, and farmers all became part of a national movement of hope. This was more than just irrigation. It was dignity restored. For a country long seen as dependent on foreign aid, Burkina Faso was now showing the world that with determination, even the driest land can bloom. Burkina Faso was once a nation where darkness ruled. Villages had no electricity, families cooked with firewood, children studied under dim lanterns, and hospitals struggled without power. But Ibrahim Traoré had a dream of a solar city that would change everything. The idea was breathtaking. Instead of relying on oil, gas, or expensive imported electricity, Traore envisioned an entire city powered by nothing but the sun. Every home, school, hospital, and factory would have solar panels on its roof. Streets would be lit by solar lamps. Transportation would run on solar buses. Even free internet zones powered by solar energy would connect young people to the rest of the world. This was not just about electricity. It was about freedom. No more expensive fuel imports. No more power cuts. Instead, Burkina Faso would harness the most abundant resource it had, the blazing African sun. The solar city also became a source of employment. Thousands of local youth were trained to manufacture, install, and maintain solar panels. Suddenly, a new industry was born, giving the nation a sustainable source of both energy and jobs. For the outside world, it was hard to believe. Could one of Africa's poorest nations become a global model for renewable energy? But as the solar city rose from the ground, the answer was clear: yes. This city was not just buildings and panels. It was a statement, a declaration that progress was possible without exploitation, without dependency, and without pollution. For Ibrahim Traoré, these projects, eco-roads, artificial canals, solar cities, were not isolated achievements. They were pieces of a bigger vision. A vision of self-reliance, dignity, and hope. When he raised his fist in front of cheering crowds, it was not the gesture of a politician seeking applause. It was the gesture of a leader reminding his people, "We can build our future with our own hands." In a world where powerful nations often exploit weaker ones, Traoré has shown that true strength comes not from wealth or weapons, but from unity and innovation. Burkina Faso, once overlooked on the map, has become a symbol of resistance and inspiration. Other African nations are now looking to his model, and people around the world are asking, "If Burkina Faso can do it, why not us?" Traoré's revolution is not just for Burkina Faso. It is for Africa. It is for the oppressed. It is for every nation that dreams of freedom. This is not just the story of one man. This is the story of a people who chose courage over fear, and innovation over dependency. And this story is only just beginning. White heavy checkmark done.